Welcome back to Actual English. I'm Jennifer Clyde. It's time for lesson 342, and today's topic is Etiquette 2. Today, let's focus on apologizing, saying that you're sorry. But let me begin by asking you a question about apologizing. Are you good at apologizing? Now, the reason I'm asking you this question is because some people find it difficult to say sorry. Maybe it's pride. I don't know what the reason is, but certain people do not feel comfortable saying, I'm sorry. Maybe they feel as if they're admitting their faults and it doesn't make them feel good, or they just don't like to apologize at all. I think a person should be able to say that they're sorry when they make a mistake or even when they hurt other people's feelings, whether it was intentional or not. But anyhow, let's talk about apologizing in general. So let's begin with our first segment. It's time for Actual Talk.
So, I'm on the train yesterday morning. I'm on my way to school, and as the doors open, I'm just about to step off, and bang, American football tackle. Korean woman comes flying through the doors, blatantly knocks me off my feet, and then as I'm regaining my balance and myself to get off, I turn and apologize to her. I'm sorry I was in your way as you crashed straight through me. And she didn't even acknowledge the situation.
Right.
I was really shocked because coming from an English background where we are renowned for apologizing for everything in life.
Right. I feel like in America also we apologize more. Canada's notorious for I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
It was really shocking to me. I didn't know what to do. And I was halfway up the stairs and then all of a sudden I was like, hold on. I didn't do anything wrong. What am I apologizing for?
It's interesting, the conflict management style here is different than what I was familiar with back home.
Okay.
I feel like we address situations a lot more, like maybe too much, maybe some things you can just let go. But I think sometimes the Korean style is, if it's over, just it doesn't need to be talked about. We don't need to rehash every single thing, just let it go. But conflict management is difficult and it can be a really sensitive situation. In my experience, I think the best thing to do if a situation needs to be talked about, I think it's great to apologize for things and take responsibility, but start with, if you're seeking an apology or there's any conflict, starting with statements I feel instead of you. Start with I statements.
Okay.
So I feel like this rather than accusations.
Okay, that's a really good idea.
And staying away from absolutes. So never or always, don't use those words. You never blah, blah, blah. You always blah, blah, blah. Those statements are not helpful.
Okay, I'll remember that the next time a situation arises.
Welcome back, everyone. It's now time for Actual Talk, as you see, and you just listened to a conversation between Martin and Mary. Now, we heard some new idioms there. For example, a new idiom that we found in today's Actual Talk conversation was to knock somebody off his or her feet. Let's check out what that idiom means and the conversation in general as well. Okay, here we go. First of all, Martin says, I'm on the train yesterday morning. Continuing on, I'm on the way to school. And as the doors open, I'm just about to step off and bang. All right, as you may have noticed, he kept on saying I am, and once again, I am. When he was talking about when? Yesterday. So you might have wondered, he's talking about something that happened in the past, but why is he using the present tense? I'm on the subway yesterday. Well, this often happens in casual conversation because Martin is trying to explain to Mary about certain situations that happened in the past, but to make it, I guess, sound more real, as if it's happening right now, to help her imagine the situation, this is often used, okay? So you would say, I'm on the train yesterday. and I walk into this beautiful girl, and she looks at me and I look at her. Okay, it's often used in the present tense, but that is to what? Kind of express something in reality, to make it sound a little more real. So I helped you out. I helped you to understand by adding I was in parentheses. That is exactly what he was trying to say. So here we go once again. I was on the train yesterday morning. And also, I was on the way to school. And as the doors opened, right, in the past, opened, I was just about to step off and bang, okay? Now, do you understand? Okay, now let's continue on. American football tackle, here he goes. A Korean woman comes flying through the doors blatantly and knocks me off my feet. Once again, he's using the present tense, but if we do correct that, it should have been a Korean woman came, okay, came flying through the doors blatantly and knocked me off my feet. Okay, so let me once again clarify that he's using the present tense. Why? To kind of express realism, as we call it, 현장감 in Korean, so keep that in mind. Now, since we know the flow of what he's talking about, let's focus on the vocab words. Here we go. Here's a word, blatantly, okay? Blatantly. If we use blatantly in a sentence, or I guess when you're speaking of something, you would say that somebody did something blatantly. For example, to express that he or she did something in a situation very openly, okay, without trying to hide anything, obviously and very openly. Okay, so this lady came flying through the doors. What does that mean? Come flying through the doors. He wasn't exactly saying that this lady was actually flying like Superman, but he was trying to explain that that's how fast she came through the doors and just bumped into him. As he said, just like in American football, how they tackle each other. So she came through the door really, really quickly and boom, bang, just bumped into him and knocked me off my feet. Now, this idiom itself, knock off one's feet, actually means to, I guess, surprise someone or even shock someone. But here in this case, he means that she literally bumped into him and knocked him off his feet, meaning making him fall. So she bumped into him and he fell down. Okay, now you have an understanding of what's happening, right? Okay, and then as I'm regaining my balance, let's change it around. As I was regaining my balance, I turned and apologized to her. I'm sorry, I was in your way as you crashed straight through me. Now this is what he said to the lady. And what happened? And she didn't even acknowledge the situation. So here we go. Also in the present tense, I'm regaining my balance. Remember, he said that he fell down because she bumped into him. So he fell down and he regained his balance, meaning he got up on his 2 feet again. So now he was able to balance himself. He's back up on his 2 feet and he turns and apologizes to the lady by saying, I'm sorry, I was in your way as you crashed straight through me. Crash in this case means what? Bump into. And what happened? She didn't even acknowledge the situation. Now, acknowledge means what? Acknowledge means to recognize or to realize something. So he's saying, well, I apologized to her. He was being a bit sarcastic, but he said, oh, I'm sorry about that. But she didn't seem to acknowledge the situation, meaning she didn't seem to really know what happened or care about what happened. Okay. I was really shocked, he says. Why? Because coming from an English background, where we're renowned for apologizing for everything in life. If you're renowned for something, it means that you are well known for something. In this case, he's saying, people in England, they're well known for apologizing. People tend to apologize all the time. It's very natural for them, for everything in life. And Mary says, right. In America also. So not only in England, but also in America, we apologize more. More meaning compared to Korea, I guess. Canada's notorious for, notorious is another vocab word. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. So what is she trying to say? She's saying that in Canada, okay, people tend to apologize, maybe even more than Americans do. They say, I'm sorry. B says, no, I'm sorry. And A says, no, what are you talking about? I'm sorry. So they say back and forth to each other, I'm sorry. She is stressing the fact that they apologize very commonly for even the littlest things, the tiniest things. But let's take a look at this word notorious. Notorious means that something or somebody is well known for something that's usually bad. Well known for something bad, simply put. So I'm not sure if notorious is the most proper word to use in this situation, but just keep in mind, notorious means well known. Yes, well known, but in most cases, it means well known for something negative, something bad, not good. I didn't know what to do, Martin says, and I was halfway up the stairs. So he means he was halfway up the stairs. He had gone up the stairs. And all of a sudden, I was like, no, hold on. I didn't do anything wrong. What am I apologizing for? So this is what he thought to himself, okay? So after this happened, he's walking up the stairs. He's halfway up the stairs, and he stops and he thinks, wait a minute. I didn't do anything wrong. Why did I apologize? She should have apologized to me, but why did I apologize? Okay, he realizes that he didn't do anything wrong, okay? It's interesting that conflict management style here is different than or from what I was familiar with back home, okay? Now, we commonly have seen a lot of people on Actual Talk saying different than somewhere. That's fine, it's used commonly, but usually in North American English, we say different from something, so you can choose either than or from. But basically what she's saying that conflict management style, the way people deal with conflicts, arguments, problems, it's different from country to country, from region to region. I feel like we address situations a lot more, maybe too much, she says. Okay, so let's take a look at this word here, address or address. The word can be pronounced two ways, but definitely when you say address, when the stress is put on the first syllable, we're talking about the location of a place, detailed description or detailed location of a place, as we call it 주소 in Korean. But you can also address someone or address something. In that case, the stress goes on the second syllable and it can be used as a verb. It means to deal with or discuss. So let's take a look. Here it's used in the verb form. Okay, it means to address. I feel like we address situations a lot more, meaning once again, discuss. Deal with situations a lot more. You talk about situations a lot more. Maybe too much. But I think sometimes the Korean style is, if it's over, it doesn't need to be talked about. Is it the Korean style? Maybe it is. I guess, Koreans try to look at things on the bright side, right? They often say 긍정의 힘. So I think what she is trying to say is that Koreans tend to just let things be. If something goes wrong, they say, well, okay, maybe it won't happen again. Maybe I just had bad luck this time. Okay, let's just let it go and forget about it. So she's saying Korean people tend to think positively in many situations. Moving on, she says, we don't need to rehash every single thing. Rehash means to reuse or to make over, do over. See, re is again, right? So re means again. So do something over again. Okay, reuse it, redo something. We don't need to rehash every single thing. Think about something over again, do something over every single time. Just let it go. Here's an expression, everyone, once again. Okay, let it go, let it go. There's even that song, Let It Go. I'm not going to sing for you, but let it go. What does it mean? Let something go or let somebody go means forget about it or forget about that person. Just let it go. Let it be. Let it be similar, but let it go means to forget about it. So here she says, just let it go. Forget about it. Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. But conflict management is difficult and it can be a really sensitive situation. Yes. In my experience, I think the best thing to do if a situation needs to be talked about. So, if a situation needs to be talked about, she says, I think it's great to apologize. It's the key word. Apologize for things and take responsibility. That's right, take responsibility for your faults and your mistakes. So yeah, that's what she's saying. If you make a mistake, be honest about it and say, I'm sorry. I apologize. I was wrong. It was my mistake. That's what she's saying. And I do agree with Mary. Moving on, she says, but if you're seeking an apology, if you're expecting an apology, if you wish to get an apology, if you want somebody to say sorry to you, or there is any conflict, what should you do? She says, start with statements, I feel, instead of you. So, for example, I feel like this, rather than accusations, okay? An accusation is like a blame. This is when you blame somebody for doing something wrong. But an accusation is usually, criticizing someone, okay? It's when you criticize and find fault in someone when you don't really have proof about it. So she's saying you should always start by saying, I, instead of blaming somebody or accusing them by saying, you did this wrong, you did this, you did this. So that's another vocab word. And Martin seems to agree. So he says, okay, that's a really good idea. Yeah, I think she's made a really good point because I often find myself in arguments or fights sometimes. And it really does help to communicate with one another when you're not blaming each other. Express your thoughts and your feelings by saying, I felt this way, I, instead of blaming the other person. Okay, let's take a listen one more time.
So, I'm on the train yesterday morning. I'm on my way to school. And as the doors open, I'm just about to step off and bang, American football tackle. Korean woman comes flying through the doors, blatantly knocks me off my feet. And then as I'm regaining my balance and myself to get off, I turn and apologize to her. I'm sorry I was in your way as you crashed straight through me. And she didn't even acknowledge the situation.
Right.
I was really shocked because coming from an English background where we are renowned for apologizing for everything in life.
Right. I feel like in America also we apologize more. Canada's notorious for I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Yeah.
It was really shocking to me. I didn't know what to do. And I was halfway up the stairs and then all of a sudden I was like, hold on. I didn't do anything wrong. What am I apologizing for?
It's interesting, the conflict management style here is different than what I was familiar with back home.
Okay.
I feel like we address situations a lot more, like maybe too much, maybe some things you can just let go. But I think sometimes the Korean style is, if it's over, it doesn't need to be talked about. We don't need to rehash every single thing, just let it go. But conflict management is difficult and it can be a really sensitive situation. In my experience, I think the best thing to do if a situation needs to be talked about, I think it's great to apologize for things and take responsibility, but start with if you're seeking an apology or there's any conflict, starting with statements I feel instead of you. Start with I statements. So
Okay.
I feel like this rather than accusations.
Okay, that's a really good idea.
And staying away from absolutes. So never or always, don't
Okay.
use those words. You
Right.
never blah, blah, blah. You always blah, blah, blah. Those statements are not helpful.
Okay, I'll remember that the next time a situation arises.
Okay, welcome back everyone. It's time for us to go over some vocab words and expressions. It's time for actual expressions. Okay, here we have words, vocab words and expressions, idioms taken straight out from our actual talk conversation. Our first vocab word is blatantly. This is a tricky word to pronounce. Here we go. Blatantly. Blatantly. Sound. 끊어주세요. Blatantly means brazenly. Now these are some synonyms. Face to face or readily, as I said. If you're talking about a situation that's really obvious in a very open way, you can use the word blatantly. Okay, face to face. It's open. It's not hidden. It's open. Acknowledge. Here we go. Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Sometimes there's also a stress that goes on null. Okay, acknowledge. Acknowledge. Okay, you might hear that slight difference. Acknowledge means to accept, agree, endorse, defend. Acceptance, I guess, or realization. Okay, acceptance, realization is acknowledgement as well. Moving on to notorious. Here we go. Stress goes right there on the second syllable. Notorious, popular, as I mentioned, prominent, yes, but usually in a bad way. If you are well known for something in a bad way, you can say he or she or you are notorious for something. Okay? What about address? As I said, it's used in the verb form in today's actual talk. Address means what? It means to, speak about, confront, undertake, discuss, deal with. These are all synonyms, okay, for address. Now, let's move on to rehash. Okay, stress goes right there quickly. Rehash means to restate or even repeat. Okay, there's RE, as I mentioned, which stands for again. So to redo something, reuse, or make over. Accusation is what? Accusation. Let's do it two more times. Accusation. Accusation. So we're talking about a wrongdoing, a complaint, or even a fault, okay? But usually you can make an accusation, and in those situations you don't necessarily have proof, but you are accusing somebody or something for something. Okay, let's move on to our two patterns for today. Knock someone off his or her feet literally means to push them down, or means to surprise someone or shock someone as well. The wind is blowing so hard outside that it almost knocked me off my feet, meaning it almost made me fall down. The next one is let something go or even let somebody go. It means to forget about that thing or that person. It's okay if you didn't do well on your quiz today. Just let it go. Just forget about it. Don't worry about it. Forget about it. Hey, let it go. Job well done.
South Korea is a country where respecting one's elders is still very important. And I think the Korean language is really special in that it is one of the only languages where an honorific form or 존댓말 exists as opposed to the 반대말 or the casual form of speaking. So you use the honorific form for your elders or basically anyone who's older than oneself, and use the casual form to speak to friends or those who are younger. I don't think that traditional etiquette is as important, especially for those in the same generation or for people from your parents' generation. But I know that if I don't stick to those rules when I'm talking to elders from my grandparents' generation, I'd get in trouble. Stuff like bowing, using the honorific form, not lifting one's spoon or chopsticks when eating before the elder at the table does, handing the scissors handle first as opposed to the blade. Stuff like this is just really common courtesy here in Korea.
It's time for our final segment, Actual Story, and today Joanne helped us out. She is from Australia, so you may have noticed her accent there. Okay, what did she talk about? Let's check it out together. Here we go. South Korea is a country where respecting one's elders is still very important. So we're talking about respecting people, but who? Respecting your elders, people that are older than you, okay? Now, it's very important in Korea. You use the honorific form for your elders. Let's take a look at this. You use something. Honorific form. This is a way of speaking with respect. So there are, for example, when you want to ask somebody, did you eat? A friend, you would say, 밥 먹었어? Right? But to an elder, somebody much older, you would probably say, 식사하셨습니까? Right? That's honorific. So that's using honorific form for your elders or to your elders, or basically anyone who is older than oneself, who is older than oneself. What about this one? Stuff like this is just really common courtesy here in Korea. So examples such as these that she has given is common courtesy. Courtesy is what? Simply put, politeness. It's very commonly seen and it's something easily seen in Korea. Okay, you don't really have to try hard. It's just naturally seen. It's common courtesy. Okay, job well done, everyone. Let's take a listen one more time.
South Korea is a country where respecting one's elders is still very important. And I think the Korean language is really special in that it is one of the only languages where an honorific form or 존댓말 exists as opposed to the 반대말 or the casual form of speaking. So you use the honorific form for your elders or basically anyone who's older than oneself and use the casual form to speak to friends or those who are younger. I don't think that traditional etiquette is as important, especially for those in the same generation or for people from your parents' generation. But I know that if I don't stick to those rules when I'm talking to elders from my grandparents' generation, I'd get in trouble. Stuff like bowing, using the honorific form, not lifting one's spoon or chopsticks when eating before the elder at the table does, handing the scissors handle first as opposed to the blade. Stuff like this is just really common courtesy here in Korea.
How did you enjoy today's lesson, everyone? You know, we did talk about apologizing, saying sorry, and we even, discussed whether it's easy or difficult to do so. But I see why not. It can make relationships better. You could solve problems between people, conflicts, just by simply apologizing. Okay, so I hope that you learned a lot through today's lesson and, of course, enjoyed it. Next time, let's talk about etiquette 3 and move on to personal information. We'll talk about how in some situations or people from certain countries, how they may not feel so comfortable sharing their personal information with you. So you should watch out which questions to ask and which questions not to ask somebody. Okay, so please do join me for that. In the meantime, come to our homepage, everyone. Come on over to www.ebse.co.kr. Look for Actual English with Jennifer and share your thoughts if you have any on our message board. Okay, that is a wrap for today, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I'll catch you again next time. Until then, take care and bye for now.